My name is Taylor Shad, and I am a citizen of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. That is in South Dakota. It's on the western side of the Missouri River, kind of up north a little bit, so northwest of the Missouri River. My home in Rapid City was really fun. I really enjoyed growing up there, just because it is so close to the Black Hills, so you kind of got this great experience to be outdoors a lot and explore the National Forest Service and all those great things that come with outdoor recreation. But my actual home was, I don't know, it was full with fun and happiness. It was a good place to grow up. So I have two sisters. One of them is older than me and one of them is younger. We're about 20 months apart, so we're really close in age. So we got to go to high school and then a little bit of middle school and then college together as well. So me and my sisters are really, really close, and we have a lot of fun together. We make each other laugh a lot. And then my mom and dad, again, they're awesome. They're where we got our sense of humor from. My sisters are kind of, they're my best friends, and we're close in age, so we've really gone through life together in that sense, of growing up around the same time. And my parents are probably some of the most influential people over who I've become. I think my dad, he grew up on the reservation. He went off and got an education and then went into the military. And this was before I was born. So I think he's a quiet man, but he's very strong. And I think I got my strength and my need to better myself in my education from him. And the same goes for my mom. She has one of the strongest work ethics I've ever seen, and she's always willing to take on a task or to help someone out when they need it. We have 3 huge dogs here and a cat that lives upstairs, so he's made appearances in a few of my classrooms, in a few of my video classrooms a few times. And I've gotten positive comments about him, so he'll probably keep coming back. But other than that, yeah, the dogs get loud during the day. They're always running in and out. Some of my professors don't mind. Actually, they prefer to see my animals, they said. But I think that's hard, and then it's also kind of been hard being home because all I want to do is be with my family and watch movies, and so it's been quite an adjustment to like a work-life balance all in one confined space where I don't really have that distraction too much in my own apartment because it's really only me, so I don't get distracted by other people. Obviously my family and like being in the house that I grew up in. I also miss all the places that I'm comfortable with in my hometown that I go out to eat and go and have coffee and see my friends. So that's definitely one of the things I miss, and I definitely do when I come back home. Well, not this time around, but usually I do. But also the hills, just because I've been on a lot of those hiking trails, and I'm familiar with them, and I don't know, I never feel unsafe in the hills when I'm hiking, and so I definitely miss being able just to grab my bag and head out for an afternoon. It feels great, being able to grow up on the lands that your ancestors have grown up on for thousands of years, and having this connection to a place that I think, not everyone is fortunate to have. And so I feel very, very lucky to have that experience and to have that connection and to have something to fight for that means everything, not just to me, but to my tribe. And it such a huge part of who I am, and I don't know if it was something that I was always so in touch with or so proud of just because of where I grew up, in a city that is primarily not Native, and who has had its issues in the past with treatment of Natives within the community, and so it's something that I've really grown into, and something I've grown to be proud of, and something that I've grown to speak up for, and I feel very fortunate in that sense. The person that motivates me the most and has influenced me really has been my grandma. She moved to South Dakota when I was in elementary school, I believe, from Colorado, to help take care of me and my sisters. And so she's kind of always been a predominant figure in like my childhood. So she was kind of like the one who like would pick us up after school and like wait until my parents got off work. So she was always the one that like we would come home to after school, and so she was kind of always there up until like middle school, and then in high school we kind of started driving ourselves to school. So but she still played a huge part in like who we are as women, and she was really she is a very tough, no nonsense kind of person, but she also she gives me really good advice when I need it, when I need like I don't want to say an outsider's advice, because she's not an outsider, but when I'm not hearing what I want to hear, or when I'm being stuck in my ways, I'll go to her, because she approaches it from a different perspective, just because she has had such a different life than we did growing up, and so I think a lot of that wisdom comes into the words that she gives us. So sometimes I don't always like hearing it, but it's helpful, I think, in that sense. Probably my little sister, but then my older sister too. My sisters, I guess, together, they motivate me in different ways, but I don't know, they've always been on my side and been on my team, and, you know, kind of, they've always wanted me to succeed, and they motivate me to keep succeeding in my own little way, and I think the fact that we're all doing different things in life kind of helps in that sense, because we're not competing against each other in a way, but we're competing beside each other. I think with any sort of college or graduate school, it always comes down to finances, and that's always been a big hurdle that I've kind of had to maneuver the last few years, especially with law school. I wanted to make sure that I would be paying for it myself. I didn't want like my parents to take that on, so it's been difficult kind of trying to maneuver scholarships and funding and loans, so that's probably the biggest one, and I defer, so I got accepted to the class of 2020, so if I went I would have been graduating this year, but I deferred for a year, because of like the finances weren't really there, and so they offered us some funding for people who would hold off for a year, so I decided that would be best for me right now, because I would be able to work another year and save up more money, but then the school would be giving me a little bit of funding to wait until the next school year, so I will be graduating next spring. It's kind of been a little bit of it's worked out really well for me, at least, deferring a year because of what's been going on. So all of the students who are in the class of 2020 at the law school, they're graduating, but they don't have a ceremony, so they're not going to be walking or anything. I think they're trying to organize like a virtual ceremony or something like that, but it's So I do feel really bad for because I have a lot of friends who are in the 3L class, and so they, some of them are first generation students, whose like whole family was going to come in to see their their relative graduate from law school, which is a huge deal. And so yeah, they're not going to get that experience now because of what's been going on, and it's for the greater whole, but it's really unfortunate for them. That was probably one of the main reasons I chose Colorado law, just because of that it's actually more affordable than other law schools. It's not a private law school, it's part of the University of Colorado system. But even then, it's still, tuition alone could be up to $40,000. I think it's close to that, maybe not necessarily that exactly, but that's like all coming from, I'm funding all of that. That doesn't even include housing, because my school doesn't have graduate housing, at least for law students. So I've been applying to a lot of scholarships. Some of it I've been able to have a little bit of savings, just because I did take off 3 years in between undergrad and graduate school. So for that first year of law school I had some savings, but that came from another circumstance as well, that hopefully is not going to repeat itself. But it's a lot of, I've been taking out federal loans. I've been applying to a lot of different scholarships, trying to see if my focus can be maneuvered into what they're funding. And I've gotten some like loans for service as well, so that means that after I graduate, I will have to go into a very specific field and help a certain group, which I was already planning on doing. But then also my tribe and AIEF have probably been the most consistent funders to me that I've gotten in the last few years, which has been really helpful. Perseverance and resilience. I think the first year was really hard. I mean, it was just as hard as my first year in undergrad, but you're kind of being told a whole different way to do things. You're learning a new language in a way, which is the language of the law, and so nothing can really prepare you for it in a sense. And I think just being comfortable with that learning curve, and just knowing that it does get easier and it does get better the more that you do it, was really helpful. But it took me a few months to really adjust and to kind of get comfortable in trying to learn the law and the legal jargon that no one really is used to, because you're kind of just thrown into it. And so persevering through that is, I think, really, really helpful. Well, I know I want to work with Indigenous communities. I don't know if it'd be like my end goal of where I'd want to end up, but I think the peak of my career, I think I'd want to work with the United Nations in some sort of human rights advocacy role with Indigenous communities across the globe. Because the more I learn about Indigenous cultures, I realize that a lot of them, whether it's in North America, South America, Australia, the trajectory and the history follows the same patterns, and it all kind of stems from this idea of colonialism and movement into their traditional lands. And so though their issues might be specific to their group, they're all feeling it equally across the globe. And so I think, coming from a tribal nation that's still trying to like propel themselves forward and still trying to get out of this history that's been against us for so long, I think that's something that's an experience, and that's kind of a history that I know myself personally, and I think I can
hopefully be helpful to others who are also in that same boat across, across the globe.
If I could talk directly to a donor, a person who helped fund the scholarship, I'd first off say a big thank you. It's really, really helped me as something that I know will help mitigate my expenses a little bit throughout the year, and I really appreciate you funding me, because it means that you believe in me and the work that I'm doing and the work that I hopefully will continue to do. It's just, it means a lot, and I hope you continue doing it, because the funds that you give, the support that you give, goes directly to students like me who are paying for their own graduate school on their own, and who plan on going into tribal work, who plan on doing nonprofit work, who plan on giving back to their community. So I really appreciate it, and it really does mean a lot. Thank you.